When I was a staff minister at another center, and I can't tell you which one because I need to protect the names of the innocent and the guilty, but we had the most darling elderly couple there. She was in her late 80s, and he was in his early 90s, and they were absolutely adorable. And for a time, she was experiencing some respiratory difficulty, and she had to be on oxygen for a few weeks, and she had a little tank she brought with her, and it was on a little cart that she pulled behind her. Well, the first Sunday she brought it to church, I happened to be a greeter, and they got out of the car. He always opened the door for her and held her hand. They were so adorable. So they come up to the door, and before I could greet her, one of her friends ran up and gave her a hug and said, "Why are you dragging that old thing along?" And she said, "Well, I have to. He's my husband." So the friend was actually, of course, talking about the oxygen on wheels, but and it was very funny. But I felt kind of sad for the little man for a second, and he must have picked up on it because he looked at me and he said, "Don't worry, I love her unconditionally." So I guess after all those years, no matter what, they loved each other, and they could do whatever they did and say whatever they said, and they were secure in their love. But here's the thing. As students of truth, we must understand that love we feel is not different from divine love. It is divine love. Therefore, it cannot possibly be conditional or measurable by degrees. All love is unconditional and unlimited. There's no other way. Our love has to be divine love because there's only one love in the universe. There's not some other kind of love that comes from somewhere else. It is all from source, from spirit, from the one, from the infinite. That's the only love we have access to, and we have access to all of it. So it cannot be conditioned, and it cannot be measured by degrees. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that we have to change how we give love or to whom. But it does call for us to increase our awareness about what love truly is and how it works. The 20th century journalist Mignon McLaughlin said, 1 + 1 in the arithmetic of love equals everything, and 2 - 1 equals nothing. And then the 21st century metaphysical mathematician Cynthia Cavalcanti came along and answered that by saying, what about we graduate from love arithmetic to love algebra and think of it exponentially, right? None of this dilly-dallying around with pluses and minuses. It's about multiplying our love exponentially to bring it up to level where it's supposed to be with divine love. This is not about one person loving another person or some other people. It's about understanding that the love of the universe encompasses the entire universe, and no one is left out. On page 82 of The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes writes, God is all, the life in everything and the love through everything. And by everything, he means everyone. Everything necessarily includes everyone. So we have to develop our awareness and increase our receptivity, don't we? And as we open to receive more love, we're naturally inclined to give more love and to give it at a higher level. This is where love becomes a personal ministry. Now, those of you who know me have never heard me use this kind of verbiage before, and I don't want to scare you, okay? Here's what I mean. To accept love as our personal ministry is to actively participate in the law of reciprocity. What we give out comes back. What we give out comes back multiplied exponentially, and then we give more and get back more, and this reciprocity continues and it never ends. We receive divine love very easily. We receive it by allowing it to fully express in, as, and through us, and then we take love out into our world. Love is a ministry giving forth of ourselves to all others. If you look in the glossary of the Science of Mind, the definition for love includes this. Love is the self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Now, I'm an editor, so I want to add to that. Love is also the self-givingness of the individual back to God and to the world. Now, I'm not suggesting we go knocking on doors and preaching love. That would be proselytizing, and we don't do that here. And I'm also not saying we need to grab strangers and hug them to demonstrate love, because that would be assault. And we don't do that here either. Well, most of us, anyway. Some of you, I don't know. What I am suggesting is that we grow in consciousness, that we allow our understanding to extend beyond ourselves, because we're not alone in this, okay? Since love is unlimited, we must infer that we are not meant to restrict it. It's natural for us to want to represent what we feel, what we believe. And people have done this through all time in all kinds of different ways. St. Francis pronounced this sentiment in a beautiful prayer, didn't he? Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Now, in this teaching, we don't have to ask God to do anything for us, because we know we are already instruments of spirit. We have agency. So for us, loving the world means living as a divine example of truth in our world. Not just inside our house, but in our car, when we're driving and there's traffic, when we're in the market, when we're at our office, wherever we find ourselves. Now, in New Thought, we don't have saints, do we? But we do have venerable ancestors like Emma Curtis Hopkins, who understood the responsibility that accompanies enlightenment. And each and every one of us, wherever we are, is on the road to enlightenment. Don't kid yourself. We are, all of us. Emma also wrote a beautiful prayer about being an instrument, about having agency. More precisely, it was an entry in her personal journal. And in it, she recognizes 12 divine powers in herself that belong to every person as well, including health, strength, wisdom, joy. There are lots of others. And she felt it was her duty to what she calls shed abroad, which is an old-fashioned term for broadcast or communicate or share, diffuse, disseminate. She wanted to share this knowledge so that others might realize those powers within themselves as well. See, a personal ministry of love is simply living the truth of self for all to see, unafraid to declare our beliefs, and ready to serve as an example of them. Now, the journal entry of Emma's I'm talking about is actually entitled The Radiant I Am. And I want to share part of it with you today, because how many of my students are in here right now and we've been reading it in class? It's amazing, am I right? It's so powerful. I want to share it with you so that those of you who are not in the class have a concrete example of what it might look like for us as metaphysicians, as students of truth, to assert our position as instruments of divine love. And it's not about doing anything, but it's about being open to knowing everything. Now, she uses some old-fashioned language. For those of you who aren't familiar with our teaching, when we say the Christ, we don't mean Jesus, we mean the enlightened consciousness, the I am. Okay? And we believe the Christ consciousness exists in every person. So the version I share with you today is shortened, because the entire piece is about 18 minutes. And I want to let you know that we have Bobby in the lobby. She has the entire Radiant I Am on CD. I've read it into a recorder, and there's some lovely music in the background. So she has that available after the service if you like it and want to use it as a meditation at home. Now, those of you who are visiting for the first time, I don't want to scare you off. This is way off book for me. I never read anything, and certainly not something of this length. But I really want to invite you to enjoy it as a meditation. I'd like to invite Melissa back up to the piano to give us a little background. And if you want to, you can even close your eyes.